morning, Amy. Hi, Miss M. Thanks for joining. I'm opening a brand new book. Finished my, which one was this? This was my 25th volume. It's complete. Look how chunky it is. Starting my 26th journal today. So time to open it up. How are the two of you checking in? Sam says, bustling around today, much to do. Amy says, there's a coolness in the air this morning. New weather coming soon. Checking in, feeling settled. It's not pouring down rain today. Yesterday, it was truly an atmospheric river. We have not had rain like that in Nevada since we moved here. It was Oregon style rain. So, yeah, very exciting. How am I checking in? Checking in. Content. Hi, Michelina. Miss M says, and the sun is low in a blue sky finally. Michelina says, checking in, feeling exhausted and hopeful. And Elaine is here. Hi, Elaine. Elaine says, good morning. I'm jealous of whatever warm thing you are slurping. So this warm thing is actually General Foods International coffee. Because our Nespresso broke. It just quit working on Saturday. My husband went to make coffee and it just wouldn't turn on. So he called them and they're replacing it, but we don't have our Nespresso machine, and I didn't have time to make a French press this morning before I had to come up and lead. So I just got out my powdered General Foods, which I keep in the back of the cupboard for I guess things like this. It's delicious and full of sugar, so. And Carol's here. Make sure I didn't miss anybody. I didn't. Carol says, checking with anticipation. Michelina says, Lou Dogs is seeing a new vet today, so little sleep last night. Oh, Michelina, I'm sorry. And Michelina says, hey, Elaine. And Amy says, hopefully warm beverages are in your future, Elaine. And Elaine says, oh, fancy coffee. I'll work on this soon. And is responding back to Michelina. Hi, Michelina. Yeah, remember when they used to do the commercials for the General Foods and it felt like it was like the fanciest thing in the world. And Skyle is here. Good morning. I was telling Amy and Miss M before y'all got here, I'm starting a brand new book today. I finished my 25th journal, So this is 26. Always a good feeling to start fresh in a new book. And I was saying that I was checking in content. I have a lot to do today, but it's not really holiday preparation. It's just a lot to do. And work is really slow this week. So, I mean, it's not slow. It's just there's no meetings this week, which is lovely. So that feels slow. Yeah. And I'm just feeling content with where I'm at and what's on the agenda. And I bought lunch for a unhoused man yesterday who was sleeping in the library. I made a bit of a ruckus by taking a book. I had books on hold, and when I went to take one out, the shelf divider that had the big letter G on it for Goins fell out and hit the floor, and that woke him up. And I looked at him and I smiled, and he said, "Good afternoon." No, he said, "Good morning, ma'am." It was afternoon, but he said, "Good morning. How are you today?" And I said, "I'm fine. How are you?" And he said, I'm doing well. God bless you." And I left the library, and I've had this happen to me several times, probably less than 10 times in my life, but where I just felt a divine, what I feel like is a divine prod to do something for that person. So I went and bought him some lunch and a gift card for the restaurant so that he can buy himself lunch again several times. Yeah. Felt like the right thing to do. All right, well, don't see any more check-ins coming in. Let's do a little grounding. It is Tuesday, by the way. Pamela and I swapped this week, so she'll be here on Friday. And yeah, I wasn't as prepared as I normally am, but that's okay. I do have a reading pulled up here on my work computer. I think I'll start with the reading. Oh, hi, Laura. Good morning. She says, checking in bewildered. Amy says, our intuition is strong if we listen. Yeah. So I'm going to start with a reading and then go into the grounding. This reading is by Ellie Bowman, and it's titled, You're So Pretty. Pretty is crossed off, and it's actually titled, You're So Unruly. Look at you, you savage woman. You hair untamed, hands calloused woman. You go ahead and pull me down, woman. I'll just rise again and again and again. Look at your thick, crossed off thick, full belly that keeps you moving. Look at your flawed, crossed off, real skin that tells your story. Look at the love in your thighs, the way they kiss each other. Look at the fire in your eyes with their Medusa stone power. Turn around. Look at the art you left in your wake, the collection of beasts that stood in your way, monuments to the trouble you've made. I'm going to read it one more time without reading the crossed out words. Look at you, you savage woman, you hair untamed, hands calloused woman. You go ahead and pull me down, woman. I'll just rise again and again and again. Look at your full belly that keeps you moving. Look at your real skin that tells your story. Look at the love in your thighs, the way they kiss each other. Look at the fire in your eye with their Medusa stone power. Turn around and look at the art you left in your wake, the collection of beasts that stood in your way, monuments to the trouble you've made. And I'll invite you to sit with that. You might want to close your eyes and think about those words. What line or word or phrase jumped out at you? Maybe it's the reframe of parts of your body. The way your thighs kiss each other. Or the way your skin tells your story. And I'll invite you to think maybe there was a part of you that wasn't mentioned in the poem that you could reframe. What would you cross off? And what word could you replace it with? It might inspire a whole poem from you. Send love to that part of you. Send gratitude. Maybe actually say thank you out loud. I'll never forget a woman that I was working with as a health coach who was working on reframing her body, particularly the body parts she didn't care for. And I've told this story before, but some of you may not have heard it. She told me, I'm going to work on my thighs. And I said, okay, what's something you appreciate about your thighs? And she said, they do a great job of connecting my torso to my lower legs. Oh, I loved that. I'll never forget that. And now we draw. So this is our Mandala universes, and we meet here every day on YouTube at 8 o'clock Pacific time. And we touch base with each other. We check in with ourselves. We check in with each other. We do a little grounding, which is what I just did. And then we paint mandalas or color mandalas or draw mandalas, whatever needs to happen for you in that circle. Mandala is just a circle. This is a full mandala book for me. I keep mine in a notebook. There's no right or wrong way to make a mandala. You see here, I even went outside the lines. It's just for you. And it's a great way to express your inner self. Oh, look at, there's a sweet one from my friend Michelina. There's that one again. Again, no right or wrong mandala drawing. I use a lot of metallic watercolors, you can see. I like shiny things and sparkly things. So, welcome to our circle. Today is December what? 23rd. Tomorrow my oldest child turns 24. No, his birthday's on the 24th. Tomorrow my oldest child turns 31. And it is Tuesday. So, yes, my oldest is a Christmas Eve baby. He was due on December 18th. And at midnight on the 23rd, about 11 o'clock on this day, on the 23rd, my water broke. Wasn't having any contractions, no signs of labor. So we called the hospital, and they said, you need to come in. Once your water breaks, there's a much higher risk for infection. And so we went to the hospital. My parents were there. They had come because I had invited my mom. No, that's not right. My parents weren't there. We didn't have any other kids, so I didn't need anybody to watch the other babies. My parents weren't there. This was our first baby. Actually, I had invited a dear friend of mine that I worked with, an older woman. Asia and I worked in a group home for severely abused children that had blown out of foster placements and adoptions. And it was a residential home for these kiddos who really needed a lot of treatment. And the hope was that we could find them homes at some point. Sometimes we did and sometimes we didn't. But one of the founders of that home had never had kids of her own. And she became a really good friend of mine. And so I invited her to come to the birth. And anyways, that's a side note. Went to the hospital. My water had broke. They said, well, you aren't having any contractions. I think this would be different today. But at the time, what they wanted me to do was walk the halls of the hospital to see if I could get contractions started. So I literally walked the halls of the hospital all night long. They wouldn't let me sleep. They said, no, you need to keep moving. Nothing happened. So they finally put me on a Pitocin drip at like 9 o'clock in the morning. Pitocin is induces labor. And I didn't have Kyler until 11:44 that night. So I'd been in labor, or well, I'd been up for however long I had been up the day before, plus that whole night. And they had to vacuum extract him. I had pushed for 2 hours and he wasn't coming out. And the doctor actually asked me, he's like, it was probably 11:40. I've been pushing for 2 hours, and the doctor actually asked, do you want to wait and have him on Christmas Day? And I was like, I don't care what day it is. Just get this baby out of me. So he was born at 11:44 p.m. on Christmas Eve. And then my parents came down the next day. They lived about 4 hours away, and they came down, and we all had hospital roast beef. That was our Christmas dinner that year. It was a very special, really wonderful Christmas. And this kid, my oldest, is such a go with the flow, just happy person, and has never once complained about having a Christmas Eve birthday. We worked really hard to make Christmas Eve his day when he was growing up, so we didn't do anything Christmas related at all on Christmas Eve until after dinner. So we would always go out to lunch. The kids weren't in school. We would always go out to lunch, and very often we would go see a movie on his birthday, and then come home and open presents. And then after dinner, we would do our Christmas Eve tradition, which is to have pumpkin pie and popcorn and watch A Christmas Story. Yeah. And then when he got a little older, we would do birthday parties in June. On his half birthday. When he was little, like, it was really interesting. We found that most parents of little kids really appreciated a Christmas Eve birthday party because it gave their kids something to do instead of sitting around bugging mom and dad about, when are we going to open presents, or when are grandma and grandpa coming, and all that stuff. And for many years, we did it at Chuck E. Cheese because we discovered that Chuck E. Cheese on Christmas Eve is completely deserted. Would I go to Chuck E. Cheese today? Absolutely not. But back in the day, when I was looking for a way to entertain, a whole bunch of kids, and when we had the place to ourselves, it was amazing. We had a lot of fun Chuck E. Cheese events on Christmas Eve. And midnight on December 23rd is also when my husband proposed to me. Back in 1991. I was living in San Jose, and he was living in Eugene, Oregon, going to grad school. And I flew up for Christmas, picked me up at the airport at like 10 o'clock at night, took me to my brother's house where I was going to spend the night. And I was sleeping on the couch. And he snuck in a white tuxedo and asked me to marry him. And he loves to tell everyone that I giggled uncontrollably for like the first 10 minutes after he asked me. My mandala is unexpected today. I don't know how it came out this way, but it did. It's pink and purple and looks like a cow. I haven't seen any comments for a very long time. I try not to be a nervous Nelly about when that happens. Oh, there's Laura. There's a comment. Laura says, I laughed too when Andrew proposed. Yeah, it just felt kind of, it felt kind of goofy. I don't know. I just giggled. So, yeah, a lot of special things happen for me at midnight late at night on December 23rd. Wouldn't change a thing. So it's 8:27, means we just have a few more minutes. If you have words that have come up for you in your mandala creating or creation, we often share them with each other. I think I'm just going to write unexpected under mine because I'm kind of kind of surprised by what came out of my paintbrush today. Can't really show it to you because it's too wet, but I'm really grateful for the blue sky today. Yesterday it was so wet and gloomy. Nice to see the sky. Amy says, I liked the word savage from the reading. McLeana says, I so needed this time to collect all of Louis' vet records into one file to place on a thumb drive. Thank you for holding space for all of us today. You're so welcome. And Amy says, good luck today, McLeana and Louis. Yeah, I hope you can get some answers and some treatment that will help Louis sleep better. And you, obviously. Laura's sending hugs to McLeana and Lou. Yeah. McLeana says, thank you all. You're so welcome. And with that, I will say happy Tuesday. Have a wonderful day. Remember that you're so unruly is a compliment. I love you all. Wow. Have a great day.